Hello and welcome to a brand new installment of Nintendo News Report, Nintendo World Report at Night slash Nintendo News Report, the last one of the year in 2016. I am your host, Alexander Kalafi, here on December 26, 2016, joined today by our two co-hosts, one, Donald Terrio from Canada. Hello, Donald.
Hello. You can tell how bad this year has been for Nintendo consoles.
Oh, not only the PlayStation 4, but the Uncharted 4 PlayStation 4, which is like 10% worse.
Yep. That was my big Christmas gift this year. That and my parents driving 12 hours to get me home and get back in time to dodge their own rainstorm.
So on this last show of the year celebrating Nintendo Game of the Year, let's talk about Uncharted 4 for a minute. Have you played it?
I have not played it because I'm waiting for my hard drive to arrive, and apparently it's coming next week from Tennessee for some reason.
Oh boy, that sounds like an Amazon third-party seller.
It was supposedly Amazon proper,
Okay.
and I've got Prime, so I don't know what the hell's going on.
Okay. You're also joined by one Neal Ronahan, site director of NintendoWorldReport.com. Hello, Neal Ronahan.
You know how bad it's been for Nintendo this year when this has been like the only Wii U retail release in the past month and a half.
That's sealed. What else is in that?
It's a Shantae Half Genie Hero. I think it's just the straight up retail version. It's the Risky Beats edition that includes a soundtrack CD, so that's why it's puffy.
Yeah. Do you like how indie games, like their idea of doing a complete edition or a Game of the Year edition, instead of making more content, is to just sort of package in a soundtrack? Because that always, like, I was not necessarily a fan of so many indie games doing that.
I mean, Runbow also did that on the Wii U version. Runbow, I think, also came with. I think the retail version also came with all the DLC. I think
there's DLC, which is different.
But that also came with the soundtrack, and like I think Runbow's soundtrack is really cool.
Yeah.
But like even still, like if I already had Runbow, which I do have the Runbow eShop edition, I don't think I'd run out and buy the retail version other than to support them because I like that game and those guys.
Yeah.
But like the allure of the soundtrack isn't something that I really care for. Like, hey, fingers crossed if we get a PAX East panel, you might be able to win this copy of Shantae Half Genie Hero. Because I backed the game. Full disclosure, I backed the game on Kickstarter mainly because they had an early bird discount and I could get the game for like $13 2 years ago. And I think it's selling for 20. So
it's
like yay me. And I figured I would want to play that game, so I'll just drop $13 for it. Didn't expect it to take 3 years for it to come out.
Yeah.
But I have it downloaded on my Wii U, and whenever I work up the muster to turn my Wii U on again, I'll probably play some Shantae Half Genie Hero.
Sure. So the point of this show today is that we are talking about Game of the Year, but we are not talking about our own personal Game of the Year this week. That's going to be in a couple weeks. Today we are talking about the Nintendo World Report Games of the Year. We got a top 5 for Game of the Year. We have top 3 retro releases of the year, re-releases, top 3 news stories of the year, and top 3 2017 anticipated games. And as you can tell, this is not a live show this week because we want this to go up at the same time as the Game of the Year stuff goes up on Friday, but this day was the only day we're available, yada, yada, yada. Let's talk about some video games. We're basically doing our own miniature version of what Giant Bomb does and releasing a podcast on your bye week, except we're actually recording it on our week off, so we don't get a week off. It's a whole thing. But let's talk about the games of the year. First, let's talk about our top 3 news stories of the year. These are ranked... Yes,
Here,
they are.
Number 3, the Super Mario Run reveal.
Great. Super Mario Run reveal, which was a big deal, not because Super Mario Run exists. That is the least surprising Nintendo mobile game they could ever release. The reason why it ranks on this list is because of where it was announced, how Miyamoto announced it alongside Tim Cook, I think, at the Apple Press event a little while ago.
Yeah, and back in September, Nintendo breaking Twitter for the first time since I think Iwata died, basically. And ladies and gentlemen, here's Shigeru Miyamoto of Nintendo. Everybody loses their you-know-what because, oh my god, Miyamoto's on stage at an Apple press conference, the world is going to end.
Yeah. And I think
in the background. I apologize.
that's all there really was about this one. Donald, what were you saying?
Yeah, I mean, it came out. The pricing model caused some controversy when it first launched, and we could have a debate another time. I think you guys probably did last week about how that pricing model ended up working. But pretty good game from the demo that I tried. I wasn't charging $14 to my dad's iTunes account to try it out, but
right,
it ended up being a pretty solid game for what it was.
So we could pull the veil behind the curtain and tell people what the news stories that just missed this list were, and pretty much it's all the stuff with Zelda. That's what missed out.
right. And I think it could have won depending on. So okay, all right, Neal, are we allowed to say how we basically figure this out?
Yeah, so the way we did the game of the year and the different categories that we have is we sent out the rules. So there's 5 games of the year, 3 for the other 3 categories, and asked for nominations from everybody. We tallied the nominations. Pretty much anything that had like 2 to 3 nominations was a part of the discussion, even if it was going to be quickly axed off. So for this, for like news story, it's a little weird. Because like people might word things differently. Like for example, some people were like, "Oh, the NES Classics announce," whereas some people were like, "The fact that the NES Classic was sold out, ergo they got combined into one nomination, just the NES Classic." For Zelda, I think that there was I think there were 2 distinct different news stories. Like the Zelda, everything that happened at E3 with Zelda. It being the only game, it being the major focus, that was a big news story for Nintendo. Another big part of that was Zelda being delayed into 2017. And that was kind of like, that was a whole big announcement in and of itself. And those kind of, I guess, maybe split the Zelda vote. Maybe if they were combined, Zelda would be a part of this list. But honestly, I think that Super Mario Run, just because of the magnitude of that reveal, I think that would trump Zelda anyway.
Yeah.
It basically forced its way onto the top 3.
Right.
Yeah.
And this does not necessarily represent like best games of the year or anything, or games we liked the most, because Super Mario Run and Pokemon Go did not find themselves anywhere near our top 5 games of the year for better or worse.
They were both a part of the discussion of the 15 games that got 2 or more nominations. But they weren't. They didn't last too long. Pokemon Go lasted a little longer. But
basically,
I guess
the news stories that stuck on your mind, the ones that you discussed that got discussed. It was Mario Run, and then what was the next one, Neal?
Pokemon Go. Our second news story of the year was Pokemon Go Fever, because it really, like, we had this build up for this game when it got revealed summer 2015, I think.
Yeah, it was like September of 2015. Like,
I was at like 2 a.m. too.
Yeah, and like no one really knew what to expect other than there was going to be big news. And then we saw it, and like for me, when I first saw that, I was like, "Oh, that's cool." Like I didn't really know what to make of it. It didn't, like, it seemed big, but at the same time, like I wasn't sure. And then like there was that Super Bowl ad, and then it seemed to be like we were just kind of waiting for it to launch, and they kept on talking about it. They had that really dry discussion of it at E3 that like. It seemed cool. People were testing it. People were kind of getting excited. And then I remember, like, I actually have some articles on the site from the week it launched, which I think was, what was that, like right before July 4th, I think?
Okay.
It was just after, I think.
Okay, just after. Like early July this summer. I remember, like, first it launched in Australia and New Zealand, and then I scrambled to get my Android phone and like sideload the app so I could start messing around with it. And I was like, oh, that's neat. Like, that's nothing too crazy. And then it officially came out on, I think, like a Wednesday or a Thursday. And with my friend who lives across town, I was just like, all right, man, like we'll meet up at the library because that's a gym. And like we'll just go, like we'll wander around and play. And that led to probably almost a month of me playing this damn game like every night. Like I would be out until 3 a.m. walking around my town, running into groups of people. Like that first night, the first night it came out, like my town is not that big. But I probably ran into about 20 or 30 people on that first night. And it continued to like, there would be like, I made friends with high school kids to the point that I would walk downtown and they'd be like, yo, Neal. And I was like, I need to stop playing this game. This is bad. This is weird.
I mean, Neal, you just call that a Tuesday, right?
But like, it was just like, yo, man, be like, I'd be walking home or I'd be walking my dog and they'd be like, hey man, there's a slowpoke over here. And I was like, I don't have one of those. All right, kids, let's go. Yeah, some mistakes may have been made, but nothing bad happened of consequence. Outside of like one time, my friend got pulled over as we were parked in a parking lot, trying to take down a gym, and then a cop pulled up to us and was like, this park is closed, and we were like, and then another cop pulled up behind him. It was like, hey, no, those guys are playing the Pokemon game. I saw them earlier, and I was like, oh, you're the cop who was playing with us last night, and he was like, dude, shut up. Be cool.
I mean, Pokemon Go is a legitimate mainstream phenomenon. Like I heard news stories about it everywhere, and it single-handedly juiced the portable battery industry.
Yeah.
To the point that I walked into Walmart a few days ago and nearly tripped over a pile of them.
Really?
Yeah, no, I mean that like it's huge in that regard, and really I think why Pokemon Go especially trumps the Super Mario Run reveal, and maybe time will tell if Super Mario Run can do the same. But really, Pokemon Go buoyed the 3DS system in 2016 like you wouldn't believe. I mean, I can just speak anecdotally. I have a couple friends that got really deep into Pokemon Go that haven't like played a Pokemon game since Game Boy, and they all bought 3DSs and are playing Sun and Moon. Like I was kind of like I saw a bunch of friends last weekend, and I was surprised at like how many people were like, oh yeah, like I'm like halfway through Sun and Moon. I was like, you guys, like we haven't talked about Pokemon since like Gold and Silver. Like what happened? And really it's because they all got deep into Pokemon Go.
And It seems like Nintendo sold through their entire allotment of 3DSs for the rest of the calendar year 3 weeks ago. Because I need a new 3DS and I can't find one for love or money. I even went to like for last week I was out because I was visiting my parents in a town of about 7,000 or 8,000 people. It still has 3 or 4 stores that would sell 3DSs, and none of them had new 3DSs in stock.
Yeah,
you forget trying to find even one of the $99 US ones. It's like even the XLs.
Those went fast.
I never played Pokemon Go, even as someone who loves the holy heck out of Pokemon, but I live in Boston, so I got to see the city effect on this. And it was very surprising to see all these people who are not in the age group, or like they don't look like people who would play video games. Not age group, because we got people of all ages. But you look at someone and you're like, that person probably doesn't play video games. But you're walking on the train and then you just see his phone. He's got the map on for Pokemon Go. And then I'm moving furniture at work. And then one of the guys I'm working with who doesn't play video games at all, he's got Pokemon Go on his phone while like we're carting stuff around. And then I'm near the school campus, and then I see all these people walking around with Pokemon Go who clearly like maybe they play like they played Pokemon back in the day. The interesting thing is, for Pokemon's 20th anniversary, it wasn't the whole celebration of Pokemon that got all these old lapsed people playing Pokemon again. It wasn't the re-release of Pokemon Blue and Red and Yellow on the eShop. It was Pokemon Go. The centerpiece of Pokemon's 20th anniversary, for better or worse, was this damn mobile game. And I'm not saying it's a great video game, but it is an impactful video game, and it is an important video game.
It's really broken.
It's like, this year's Pac-Man fever. Like, the reason why we're calling it Pokemon Go fever is not just because it's Pac-Man fever, but also because the way people picked it up. You look at people playing Pokemon Go, it's downright feverish.
Yeah. I really, as a social like experience, it was incredible. But as a game, like it's frustrating and buggy, and that it seems like Niantic, the developer, is like at war with some of its deepest community because they keep on like limiting things and tweaking it, and some of it seems to be in the name of like keeping people safe, which makes sense, but a lot of it kind of makes me irritated, and I'll drop off the game. Like I'm still playing it every now and then. Like you get like an incubator by going to Pokestops for the Christmas season. So I will be going to Pokestops to get my free incubator. But yeah, like I'll turn it on every now and then, but I'm not that much into it. I kind of don't like that the new Pokemon are all just from eggs and you can't really like find them in the wild. Like that's kind of a bummer. And I'll be curious to see how they evolve it over the coming year, because we still haven't seen any of the legendary birds. We haven't seen Mewtwo. We haven't seen Mew, and they broke the seal on the next 100 from Gold and Silver, because they have the baby Pokemon are
Togepi, Elekid, Magby, etc.
Smoochum and Pichu and Cleffa, I think, are the ones that are out there, and then Togetic, because or Toget, I don't know that I'll say
Togetic.
Togetic.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Togepi, Togetic.
Yeah, and then you probably also got Nigglybuff in there too, don't you, Donald?
Yeah, that one. I think the only Gen 2 baby is Tyrug, who's not in it.
Yeah, Tyrug isn't in
it. So, anyways, we've got Super Mario Run, which was an enormous news story despite being the least surprising Nintendo mobile game possible. You got the Pokemon Go story, which was such an enormous story despite being a very simple, very flawed game. What if I told you the biggest news story of the year is the result of one 3-minute YouTube video?
3-minute and 37-second YouTube video.
There you go. In fact, that just proves my point of how important every single second of this video ended up being.
That was also because I did the write-up for the website and included the line about exactly how long it was.
I'm very... That right there is journalism, Neal.
Yeah, I Googled that. I Googled Switch reveal. I was like, oh, that's how long the video is.
The reason this was such a big story, in my opinion, wasn't just because it was the reveal of the name and like some of the games that could come out. And that on its own would be enough to put it over at the top. I think the reason why this especially deserves to be over Pokemon Go is because of the way people were anticipating it before it came out. All that NX speculation, all that Reddit chatter, that
the
like
controller,
like
all the rumors and everything. And as much as the rumor stuff, like, quite literally gave me several headaches throughout the year, like, it's still, like, people were foaming at the goddamn mouth for this reveal video. And really, like, I mean, by the time it was October 23rd, I think, or October 20th, something like that, like, late October, we first found out that this system existed in March of 2015. There was a year and a half of just feverish nonsense just bubbling everywhere. And then it kind of turned out that some of the rumors right before it were right on the money.
Yeah.
And some of the rumors right before it were complete bullshit.
Yeah, but like there was definitely like you can follow a line of like from September, or I think it was the Eurogamer story in August. From there onward, there's a pretty consistent trail of here's exactly what this thing is.
Right.
And it turned out to be a really neat thing that we're going to find out about pretty much like right when the new year kicks off. And then it'll be out in our hands, available for us to play within like 90 days of right now.
Right. Which is so soon, because we barely know it exists. It barely exists. I don't know a single game on it other than Zelda and Dragon Quest, and then like a couple indie games.
Just Dance.
Yeah.
Sonic 2017, whatever that ends up being.
Sonic 2K17.
Yeah. So he's playing basketball now.
Yeah. Those are your top 3 news stories of the year. But the Switch is a big deal, and we're going to have way more to say on that in 14, 15 days after you see this? If you see this on the first day we release this?
2 weeks.
About 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks. 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks.
So there you go.
By the time you hear this, I'll have put in my day off of work.
Top 3 retro re-releases of the year. Now, for this in the next category, it was more we knew exactly what the first 2 were, but we had a hard time coming up with a strong third competitor, which is not necessarily to discount our third top 3 retro re-release of the year, The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess HD Wii U. But the 2 that we put above it are some real titans. Now, Neal, you did play The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess HD.
Yes.
Say something about it, because I didn't play it.
It's a good game.
Yeah,
I wrote
it's that game, but better.
It's the best version of that game. Like, that's what I can say about Twilight Princess HD, which I think makes it a successful re-release remake. Is that it is the best version of that game, because it kind of takes the best of both worlds of the Wii and GameCube versions and puts them into one package with some token amiibo support and like pretty graphics, and you can play it off TV, and
then it runs it through a dryer to get rid of some of the ballooning things that were kind of holding that game back. Because I know the thing that really struck me is how much they cut down the opening tutorial and how they got rid of some of the Tears of Light enough that wasn't a complete chore.
Wait, what did they do to cut down the tutorial?
There's one, I know at least one part, there's a fit where you have to fish and you have to cast twice, but on the HD version,
I think that's the only part of the tutorial that's lessened, which is negligible.
Which is good, because fishing in that game is still bad.
Yeah.
But
definitely the lessened Tears of Light, that was noticeable. It was kind of like how they reshuffled the Triforce pieces in the back half of Wind Waker. Just like kind of some smart tweaks that they probably like, man, we should have done that, and then they could actually go back and fix it.
Nice. Number 2 and number 1, we got very heated over. I would not be surprised if there were people in the comment section for this who would have a very different opinion than the way this turned out. But number 2 is NES Classic, the Nintendo Entertainment System Classic. And I'm going to say this other one at the same time, because I think there's actually something interesting we could do about how we chose one over the other. Number 1 was the Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow 3DS Virtual Console. Now, if I remember correctly, I chose Pokemon on Virtual Console because this was one of our closest votes.
Yeah.
I chose Pokemon on Virtual Console. You, Neal, chose the NES Classic. And
yes.
Donald, where did you fall?
I was on the side of the NES Classic just because it represented such an improvement on Nintendo's last attempt at NES emulation, which is on the Wii U, which is terrible.
Yeah. No, I mean the NES Classic is 30 awesome games. Well, like 20 awesome games and 10 shitty ones.
It's probably like 13 awesome. It's probably like maybe 8 awesome games.
10 awesome, 10 okay, 10 crap.
That's more reasonable.
It's still a good ratio, but
yeah.
But a good price tag. The only problem is Nintendo not seeming again to get that people might actually want something they produce after the Wii U. I don't blame them. And they dramatically undershipped this thing, which I think ended up tipping things toward Pokemon in the end, because it's like, okay, we would love to see this, but we can't buy the damn thing.
I think a lot of our staff in the discussion wanted an NES Classic and couldn't get one. And that's like for me, I was way more in the middle here. Like I definitely leaned on the side of NES Classic, but as the discussion deepened, I was just kind of like, let's just give it to Pokemon. I don't really care that much. Right. Like I think the NES Classic is the thing that I've probably played both about the same. I think I like the NES Classic, and we'll go back to that more. I think what playing Pokemon Yellow and Pokemon Blue on my 3DS earlier this year proved to me is that while I will always love those games to death, they are extremely rough around the edges.
Mm-hmm.
Which, like, there's a charm to it, and it's really only charming because I played it when I was 10. But like, those games are so janky, and like, there's things that are just straight up broken about them. And it would have been really crappy if they fixed that. I think you had to leave it as is, but it still doesn't take away from the fact that I think Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow, while like innovative masterpieces like that they have been completely improved upon in every single way in even the Game Boy Advance remakes.
Right. Yeah, and I think the reason why I chose them is, for one, Game of the Year is arbitrary politics based on nonsense. That's all Game of the Year staff discussions are, which it's fun nonsense. There's nothing wrong with fun nonsense, but it's nonsense built on constantly changing arbitrary rules that we set for ourselves and for the games and for the staff of any website that you will ever find that does Game of the Year. And it's interesting to see these lists come out. So I like Pokemon. I didn't play the NES Classic, but I identify with Pokemon more than the NES Classic. So I was looking at Pokemon more than the NES Classic. Part of me sort of resented the fact that NESs were so not widely available. Part of me felt that for everything you can say about Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow, you can say the same thing about almost every one of the 30 NES Classic games up for discussion. This is not the time.
Super Mario Brothers 3 ain't jank.
Here's the
Take
thing.
that back.
This is so not the time for this conversation, but I saw Rogue One with my friend the other day, and we were talking about Mario games in the car because he is a big Mario fan. And like we were talking about Mario 3 for a while, and the conclusion we came to is that Mario 3 is not nearly as perfect a game as like we all give it credit for. Like
I'm just saying there's no jank. I ain't saying it's perfect. It's not even the best Mario game.
No, but I'm saying like it was like everyone puts Super Mario 3 and Super Mario World on a pedestal as like, if you want perfect games, like these are the ones you go to first. And like no game is perfect, but we thought about it for a while, especially the original NES release of Super Mario Brothers 3, and we came to stuff like, okay, World 7 is kind of horrible. World 8 is miserable to play. It's not poorly designed, but it's miserable to play.
It's like stupid hard for all the wrong reasons.
The giant world is an enormous Trojan horse because the first level of that world is one of the best levels in that entire game, followed by all of the worst levels in that entire game. World 2 is miserable to play.
I feel like the reason why a lot of people have fond memories of Super Mario Brothers 3 is because they just used the warp whistles to skip most of the game.
And then you look at the original NES version of that game, and we all talk about this, but for everyone who looks at a game today and they're like, oh, it's not complete, oh, it's missing this core feature, all this, old games back then were way better. Super Mario 3 is one of the games that most needed a save feature and did not even have a password feature.
I will say this, I'm one of those people that puts Mario 3 on a pedestal, but I put the All-Stars version on a pedestal because that had a save feature.
Yeah.
Right.
I put World on a pedestal because World is one of the best platformers ever made. Also, I don't know why we're talking about this right now.
It's just we were talking about it.
But I will say,
stay on target.
Something I thought of a couple of days after we talked about this. It was like, it's one of those things that comes to you in the shower. The fact that they got wireless trading into Pokemon and the bank functionality. I know how broken Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow is. That game hangs on by a fucking thread. And the fact that they got the wireless stuff in there and all this and this feature compatibility with Poke Transporter next month, that's a goddamn miracle.
And that was part of my reason for being against Pokemon as well, was that the Pokemon Bank stuff isn't even live yet. But the point to that from the people who did not support my pick for NES Classic was, well, I'm not going to be able to get an NES Classic until next year. And then I relented.
Yeah. Okay, there's our top 3 retro releases of the year.
If people are curious of the ones that just missed, Metroid Zero Mission on the Wii U eShop, the GBA Virtual Console version. Super Mario Advance 4 on the Wii U.
There was a reason to talk about it. Barely.
I mean, it's on NES Classic.
Yeah, I guess.
And then like Earthbound, and I guess kind of the Virtual Console Super Nintendo games on new 3DS. But
the reason why I think those missed it is because I think at first we were deciding what was the best game, but I think we started thinking the top 3 retro re-releases of 2016, and these were the 3 games that say 2016 when you think about them as retro re-releases, that the other ones don't necessarily.
Yeah.
Despite being all 3 excellent games. Like Mario 3, for all the shit I was talking, still probably one of the best games of all time, still one of the best aging 2D platformers of all time.
Yeah, there's a nice rhythm to that game. But anyway, the next category.
Anyways, the first world of Super Mario 3 is one of the best games of all time.
It's supreme. But
anyways, top 3 anticipated 2017 games. This list was funny because we had all these games that we could include for a top 3.
So I feel like you know what the top 2 are. We'll talk about them in a little bit, but you know what they are. Like, let's get real.
Right.
So we had the other ones that we were discussing were Poochie and Yoshi's Woolly World, Ever Oasis, Stardew Valley, and Pikmin 4. Those were the only other games that got more than 2 nominations.
Pikmin 4 was up for debate, but it barely exists. And the other games that would be up to that level don't officially exist yet.
Yeah.
So what did
Pokemon Stars wasn't really on the table because that's kind of loosely. I mean, no, I think one person nominated it, but we didn't get the 2 nominations, so we didn't have to face that conversation anyway.
Yeah. So what did we do, Neal?
We basically said we got to a point where we kind of said screw all that, and our third most anticipated game for 2017 is the Poochie Amiibo.
Not the game. Who cares about the game? Just
because we realized that most of the people that listed the game as one of their most anticipated games was like, well, that Amiibo's real cute. I already played Yoshi's Woolly World.
Yeah.
And that Amiibo is adorable. I might even say put an addendum and being like the third most anticipated game at NWR is the Poochie and Yoshi animated shorts that will be coming out with Poochie and Yoshi's Woolly World.
Most anticipated Amiibo.
Yeah. That would be it. It would be the Poochie Amiibo. That thing is so damn adorable. I need it.
Yeah. I pre-ordered the game because I want to see the shorts.
Yeah.
I look at it as I'm getting a $20 3DS copy of Woolly World, the Poochie Amiibo, and all these animated shorts that I would easily pay $30 for on DVD or Blu-ray.
Right. Number 2 and 1. Obviously, the 2 we got to choose between are Super Mario for Switch and The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. We chose Breath of the Wild in second place and Super Mario for Switch in first place. And this one was another tight discussion. The reason why I think we chose that is because it wasn't actually all the way fair. I mean, none of this stuff is fair. It's just our opinion, and we have nothing to apologize. Whatever. The reason why it, quote-unquote, wasn't fair is because Super Mario for Switch, we saw 20 seconds of a game that, according to Nintendo, does not officially exist yet, and we only had all of our hype to base on 20 seconds of Mario and the idea of another 3D Mario. For The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, there is hours and hours of different Breath of the Wild footage out there, and that's the reason why I think that game ultimately lost, is because the more and more we see Zelda, I think the more and more, certainly me, certainly Neal to an extent, but I would say a number of people on our staff just got less excited for it, and Donald too.
Yeah, I feel like with Zelda, we got that everything from E3, I was really into. The Game Awards footage was just kind of concerning, in that it seemed it's gonna sound it seemed too open, just the fact that there, I guess there's a fun way to freelance in that, but I kind of need to know what the structure is going to be at this point, because right now it just kind of seems like it's IDK just wander around, and I kind of hope that there's a better structure than this world is gigantic. Go. And I mean, at this point, who knows when we'll see more of that? Maybe we'll see more of that at the January 12th event. Maybe we'll see more of that when the game comes out in the summer of 2017. Who knows?
Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying.
But that trailer at the Game Awards was shit hot. Oh man,
it was a very poor showing for what could be a very good game. We will see. Well, Super Mario for Switch, it just looks so fun because you got a Wild West Mario and you got some coins.
Looks like maybe there's a little bit of like Mexican influence is it going to be like Sunshine in Mexico? Like, give me that.
Ooh, that sounds like
Yeah. Like I would.
that's my favorite movie from the 1970s, Sunshine in Mexico.
Yeah, it was before Eastwood really got into the genre. There was Sunshine in Mexico.
It was classic spaghetti western.
but I mean, like there's so much joy and excitement over like 6 seconds of off-screen footage of a Mario game, and I think what might have helped Super Mario Switch winning this category for us was the fact that everything that I've heard from any source that I know is that Super Mario for Switch looks fucking incredible. And I think that's a game that we will see a lot more of in about 2 weeks. So, yeah,
and that
like,
from there's a possibility, there's a non-zero chance that we see that first in January, and it's out in March.
Yeah, that seems very likely at this point, and I can't wait. I want to play that game so bad. That is, it's my most anticipated game of 2017, and it's also our site, so that's cool. Groupthink.
Right. I think it's fair that we chose Super Mario for Switch because we don't this list doesn't care about how much of a game was shown. It just cares about how excited are you for this video game based on what we've seen so far. I would say I'm more excited for whatever new thing comes out of Splatoon than I am for The Legend of Zelda. None of it was shown. I have no idea what's in that game, but the promise of more Splatoon, no matter what it is, and the promise of me playing more Splatoon in a supported game environment is more exciting to me than The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild stuff we were shown, regardless of how much was shown so far. Now, I believe that brings us to our final category, the top 5 games of the year. Now, we were talking about this during the Skype chat that we did all this at. And for part of me was unsatisfied with because it was like I got that game, but I didn't get that game. It was a compromise. But actually looking at the list now, before we even talk about it, I actually like the look of this list.
I think it's very representative of the year that was for Nintendo.
Right, which was glimmers of gold through piles of
manure.
Manure. Shit just seemed very improper to say for that specific phrase. We had a flawed year for Nintendo, but we also had some great stuff. Let's focus on the great stuff.
I do want to point out something about this list, which is I think a little disheartening, and maybe we need to readdress this for next year. As far as the nominees that we discussed, they were all Nintendo published games.
Yeah.
Well, would SteamWorld Heist have counted in that list? Because that would have probably been very high up.
I believe someone nominated that, but it only got one nomination.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
As far as the ones that only got one nomination, that like so I have to cut off like basically 2 people need to champion a game in order for it to be a part of the discussion. Which maybe that's something we need to revisit. I don't know. Let us know in the comments below. So the third-party games that also like Sega 3D Classic Collection, Seventh Dragon 3, Shantae Half Genie Hero, SteamWorld Heist. Those were the only third-party games mentioned on this list. It is kind of, I guess I could have nominated it. I didn't. But Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse, that was like number 6 or 7 for me. But yeah, I guess
I nominated Rhythm Heaven, and that only got 1 vote.
Yeah, you were the only person to nominate Rhythm Heaven, which I was kind of surprised.
Because that was a really good game.
That's a really good game.
There's a game I'm glad you didn't mention there because, well, there'll be some. I have some of my own hardware to hand out at some point. And
what, Mighty Number 9?
No, I was thinking more of Zero Time Dilemma.
Okay, yeah. No one nominated that.
Yeah,
out of the 25 nominees, the nominators we had.
Yeah, I've got a very conflicted relationship with that game.
That game landed with a thud.
Yeah, there was so much excitement.
Another game that came out this year, No Man's Sky, landed with an explosion. It was a bad explosion, but it was still an explosion. This game, they were talking about, maybe it won't sell. I don't know if we can have it. Okay, we finally secured the funding because you guys asked. The game could not have landed more muted. if it tried.
I mean, there was a lot of crap for Zero Time Dilemma with how the Amazon orders, like they had the watch pre-order stuff, and like none of that shipped on time.
Yeah.
Like that helped it have this really bad taste in everyone's mouth.
Hmm.
But
But I
think
believe it's kind of getting a second chance because isn't it getting released on PS4?
the first 2 games in that trilogy are.
Oh,
But
okay.
I've not heard of a Zero Time Dilemma release on PS4. If they do that, I hope they fix the ending. That's all I'm going to say.
Does
So
it pull a Mass Effect?
Let's just say it leaves there's an entire spoiler cast about this with
Okay.
myself and
Okay.
friends, so it's a room.
Okay.
Go
It's-
listen to that.
Go look for that. Let's
There
talk
could
about
not
the-
have, there could
let's
not
talk
be a
about-
game that was less talked about than that game.
let's have a top 5 games of the year discussion here for
Number
the Nintendo World
5.
Report. Top 5 games of the year. Alex, take it away.
Okay, number 5 was Pocket Card Jockey, which, Neal, I'm going to hand this to you in a second because I know you are the biggest champion of this game. But it is, yeah.
If it's not settled, I think that this is my personal game of the year.
Okay. I was curious because this is one of the few Game Freak games I haven't played. Developers of Pokemon. Neal gave it a lot of praise, and the game sounded kind of complicated. Like, the idea of solitaire anything is not appealing to me, which I think is one of the reasons why I held off. And it's like, it looks kind of weird, and it's a mobile game too, so I don't know. But I played the demo. The demo was really addicting, and then I bought the full game, and I have been playing it near nonstop since I bought it on Christmas Day, which is very impressive. And I think it could be one of those last-minute games that shimmies itself on to like number 10 or number 9 just by the time I'm done playing it. That game is so addicting. It's so simple. There's not much of a story, but there's this funny-ass WarioWare-style dialogue. And
It's like your character starts off, you
Yeah.
ride a horse, and then you get killed.
Yeah, that's how it goes. You get killed almost, and then it's
and then the solitaire god like reawakens you, and it's just like, this is how you play horse racing now. You play solitaire.
yeah.
Like, the entire dumb mechanic of the game is explained in a story conceit, and it just goes down the rabbit hole of like, you go, so like the story that you kind of work through is you're playing as these different, like you're basically going between these different trainers, and you can kind of like stall in the story and just go to different horses, but you can also go to like story horses and work through there. And some of those story horses are like, someone's just like, I think it'd be really cute if this horse had a cat on him. And then you have to race with a horse that has a cat on his back. And it's just like, it gets so dumb, and it's so good. It's so fucking awesome.
But it's the fact that it combines all these things, because I think about it mechanically too. It combines the joy of a racing game. Because the game of solitaire is so simple and so surface level, it barely even counts as solitaire, and it's so easy to play that game well. The feeling you get of playing solitaire really well, and that weird rush you get, like just even if for a moment, this game captures it very well and very easily. So it has those two feelings, plus it has a sense of humor, plus it has RPG mechanics that are very reminiscent of like Infinity Blade.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of like prestiging of you raise your horses, you retire them when they're done, and then you can mate them with other horses to make potentially better horses, but there's also story horses. It's the same cycle of Infinity Blade, of running races, getting trophies, and when it retires, you get a new one and raise it up. And because the horse has different stats, now you're better equipped for different trophies. And then eventually, after you play long enough, theoretically, you will get a horse with high enough stats to compete in the Royal Derby and like all the super good ones. Now, let me ask you, Neal, did you end up beating it?
Not like to completion. Like I probably put 20 hours into it, but I think I was telling you before that I played a lot more of this as kind of like treating it like a game of solitaire as opposed to like min-maxing and trying to like beat everything.
By which you mean you didn't get all the trophies?
I think I'm like 1 or 2 short.
Okay.
But like, I mean, I brought up my review of this game that you can read on NintendoWorldReport.com.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a line in there that basically talking about how this game mirrors playing actual solitaire very well, and that you'll have this horse and you'll try to play as best as you can, but sometimes that doesn't matter. Like, you're not going to get the right cards. Sometimes just the race is like kind of unwinnable, and it's a game that I think can get very frustrating if you keep on trying to like make sure your horse wins every possible race. But if you just kind of let go and just like enjoy it as the solitaire game that it is, that's when I think it becomes so fucking magical.
And it's
Is when it's like, for me, like, I like playing solitaire games. Like on Brain Age, like I revisited like the Spider Solitaire version on the 3DS one quite a bit after I got that Brain Age game. And this game was just like very, very nice and relaxing. It's just like sit down and just like roll through like the youth of a horse. And then, either start another one or try to take that one and see how far I can go as being an adult. Like there was a nice like comforting rhythm to playing this game.
If you haven't played it yet, and this is just going to be a very quick recommendation. If you haven't played it, I very much recommend the demo on the eShop. It's a meaty-ass demo. It's like an hour and a half of gameplay. It basically takes you through your first two horses, your tutorial horse and your first genuine horse. And if you're worried about the solitaire aspect like I was, understand that it's not actually really solitaire. It's just a game that looks like solitaire, that captures the essence of solitaire. You don't have to worry about clubs and spades and hearts and diamonds. All you have to worry about is ace, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, jack, queen, king, ace. And it's solitaire, but you just have to know that if it's one above or one less. So you're just building very, very easy chains. So if you're worried about the solitaire, don't worry about it. That's all I have to say.
Because that was my biggest problem with the game, and that's why I didn't vote for it in the end, is because the RNG of this was not on my side at any point in this game, and it just became too frustrating for me to continue.
It can get frustrating. That's one thing I think we should touch. Well, we won't touch on it too much, but I am getting to the point as I am trying to like get all the trophies, or I'm getting frustrated because one of my horses that I bred lost 3 races in a row because I got really bad luck, even though it was like statted through the roof and could have probably won the Royal Derby if I actually statted it like properly. And then I got another horse that like was another junior breed, but it's statting like shit. It's just sometimes the RNG is frustrating.
It's weird hearing like the way that you're attacking this game, because it's like almost the exact opposite of how I played this. Like I kind of look at it, I was like, I got a bunch of trophies, cool, and like wasn't really going for trophies. I just played the game,
right?
And like it's just weird to hear like a completely different way to approach this game, as I just kind of like let it wash over me.
I wouldn't call it attacking the game though. Like I don't have an attack on this game. It's more.
Oh no! I meant attacking is in like you're like looking like, all right, how do I beat it?
Okay.
For me, I was just like rolling through it, like treating it like it was a card game.
I see.
To a game with a definitive end.
Yeah, but what I will say, of the 3 most recent non-Pokemon Game Freak games, Tembo the Badass Elephant, Harmo Knight, and Pocket Card Jockey, which I still think of as Solitiba because that was the original Japanese title. This one is by far the best. Tembo the Badass Elephant, as much as I wanted it to be a great Donkey Kong Country game, it's kind of a bad Donkey Kong Country game. And Harmo Knight
is okay. And I think
Harmo Knight is pretty good at best.
Yeah. I like Harmo Knight, but it's no Pocket Card Jockey, that's for damn sure.
It's a way more simple game, but it just feels way more satisfying to play. I would say it's the most satisfying game to play on this top 5 list we have, even if I agree with the game we ultimately chose as number 1, which we'll get to in a bit.
Well, how about we get to number 4?
Let's get to number 4. I'm actually going to stay very silent during this one. Donald and Neal. In fact, I'll start with you, Donald. Tell me why you liked Metroid Prime Federation Force, our number 4 Nintendo World Report Game of the Year, so much.
Because the Metroid fans, like, there's that percentage of the fan base that absolutely savaged this game. The fan petitions out as soon as the game was announced at E3 last year, that they hated this game. As the resident guy who doesn't like Metroid on the staff, which has gotten me fired on more than one occasion, I love this game because it doesn't play like a Metroid game. At least not the ones that I have tried and played in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I have no problem using the nub for controls, and I like the sort of backgrounder that it gives me into the world. I mean, there's a great world in Metroid. It's just the games that surround it aren't usually all that good as far as I'm concerned.
It kind of sucks because I feel like if this game came out alongside like Metroid Prime 3 or something, there wouldn't be this outcry and people could like, I guess, appreciate it for what it is. And like I it's cool if like you played this and you don't like it, but to just be like super stupidly negative about it just because it exists and it's not a 2D Metroid, like that's ridiculous. But it just sucks because I feel like there's this game's never going to get a true fair shake because of all the crap that people laid on it.
Why is it good? That's the part I want to not. I don't care any. I mean, it's important to talk about the context, but like, just letting go of the context. Why is this game so good?
It's good because it's a first person game, but it's not so much of a first person shooter, which many people have tried to do first person shooters on handhelds and have failed miserably. But this one, there's enough exploration in there mixed in with the shooting sequences that do play really well, at least as far as I'm concerned. That's why this is such a good game.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Donald on that one. I mean, it's way more a first person adventure than most first person shooters that have been on DS and 3DS. Not quite as much as a first person adventure as say Metroid Prime, but I think it's really well developed for a handheld because of the mission based structure. The online stuff and like some of the interactions there, like having some kind of voice chat would have been way better. There's an easy way to circumvent that. It's called Skype or Discord or whatever you want to do. But like I had an absolute blast playing this in co-op with people. I had a blast playing it in single player. I just think it's a fun game to explore in. I do have some complaints with it. Like it's got its flaws. Like I kind of wish there was almost more customization because you can get like a Samus suit for your character by using the Samus amiibo, and it gives you like more missiles. And I kind of got to a point where I'm like, what's the point of using literally any other outfit? And like there's a lot of like mods and stuff that you can get, but I kind of wish there was maybe a little more variation in that as opposed to just like now your missiles do 25% more damage. Like having things is just like percentage points better. I mean maybe that works for some people, but for me, like I kind of wish there was more creativity in how you could play on a level to level basis as opposed to kind of falling into specific roles and having to just do that. Yeah, I feel like I'm rambling now.
No, that's cool. I have nothing to say about it, so I'm glad someone had something to say about it.
But if anybody wants to like play some more levels in this, I'm totally down because it's a really fun game and it's been a while since I played it.
What's the right price for me to pay for this game?
For you, like $15-$20.
Okay, that sounds right. I would say 15 maybe. Sounds closer.
But I guess I think that this game has one of like the most ridiculous fucking endings I've seen in a game all year. And it's a beautiful thing. It's like I was playing it. I played it with John Raridan before release. Played the ending. He had already finished the game, and we were playing it together. And I had to like he had to make sure he was doing stuff in one of the last levels because I started laughing really hard. And it's just like it's like Charlie and beautiful in a wonderful way. And like that entire game, like the writing, I'm not going to say like the writing's great, but it just feels like it's like B-movie writing and it really fit. And like just how like everybody's just like Samus is a god. Like that's how everybody treats her. And like that's kind of cool. Like I like this world. I always have, and I know that maybe people don't really give a shit about the Galactic Federation, but I kind of do. And like, I like playing as one of those dudes, and like their little like chibi mech suits and shit. Like that was a good time.
Nice. Okay, number 3, video game of the year, NintendoWorldReport.com, Picross 3D Round 2. I never played this game, but I think you guys did. That's a
Donald,
claim.
I played the demo.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this game is the same price as Rhythm Heaven in Canada, which means it's over $40,
but
and that's a little too rich for my blood right now.
so I can probably handle this one pretty quickly. If you play Picross 3D on your DS, don't be an idiot and buy this game right now. Like it is like Picross 3D, but even better. And Picross 3D is legitimately my favorite DS game of all time. Picross 3D Round 2 is amazing. It's got tons of puzzles. They add a new mechanic where there's now like 2 different colors that you kind of need to deal with, so it makes it more complicated and allows for more interesting shapes to be made as you're kind of chipping away on the blocks. It still has that beautiful feedback loop of like, so for people who don't know, like this is kind of like a spatial reasoning, almost Sudoku-esque game where you have a cube in 3D space, and using the touchscreen and the stylus, you kind of manipulate this cube that has numbers on it that shows you like how many in that line are going to form the shape. So you'll have a cube and it'll have like 2 on it, and then there'll be 2 in a row that you need to not smash, and you smash all the other ones. And it's really fun. There's amiibo ones for like Kirby characters and Mario characters, and there's something really satisfying and very relaxing about playing Picross 3D for hours and hours.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Maybe one day I'll buy it. I just need it to go on one discount. That's all I need. Give it to me for like $20-$25. Just don't make me pay $30 for a digital only like this game, even if it's worth it.
Yeah, there's enough content in it,
I'm sure.
in my opinion, to justify $30. But I do not fault people who want it to be cheaper, especially cheaper than the Canadian price.
Yeah, because the first one launched at 20, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I think it would have been smarter on Nintendo's part to launch this at 20, but hey, they're the pros. What do I know?
Yeah.
Well, as we've talked about, they have some trouble figuring out what people will pay for. So anyway, moving on.
Okay, number 2, none of the people, well, Donald, maybe you kind of, but like the number 2 game of the year for Nintendo World Report is Fire Emblem Fates, and you are left on this show with one person who very actively dislikes Fire Emblem Fates, or at least the one he played. There's Neal flipping the bird.
I played Birthright, and I did not like it that much. I think it ruined a lot of things that I liked about Awakening. I do have the dual pack 3DS card or whatever the hell. And one of these days I'll play through Conquest and I'll probably like it a lot more. But like, holy shit, did Birthright leave a bad taste in my mouth?
Here's what you got to do.
I was actively lobbying for this game to not make our top 5. Spoiler, I think Tokyo Mirage Sessions would have replaced it if I had my way, but that did not happen. And I'm mad.
It was a close runner-up. It was probably 6 or 7.
Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE, by the way, that was totally our Wii U game of the year, because I guess not the spoiler number 1, but the top 5 are all 3DS games.
Yep.
Yeah. And then you're left with me, who played Conquest, and Neal, by the way, if you ever played Conquest, normal, classic style, so your guys die. Conquest was, I think, probably the better one, because most of Fates was not that great. The content was very unbalanced compared to Awakening, which had like a little of everything. Conquest and Birthright both had a lot of some of the features of Awakening, but none of the other features. Like Awakening has the open world-ish aspect of Fire Emblem Awakening, but Conquest has none of that in exchange for a Fire Emblem game that's more classic. But at the same time, there are Birthright has Conquest has more styles of matches like more types of ways to play that game, like more variation that Birthright doesn't have, and it makes the games kind of feel half complete, especially because the stories literally are 1/3 complete in each of these games, because it's like it's a slightly different story in each one. But the gameplay in Conquest, Fire Emblem has never been better to play and has never had a stiffer challenge for me, or at least a better challenge than Fire Emblem Conquest. So I recommend Conquest. I have Revelations that I bought. I'm never going to play Birthright, but I will say the gameplay in Fates is very good, although the rest of the game did not stick with me, especially the story, which is weird because they put so much effort into the story and it's not that great. I would say significantly weaker than Awakening.
It seems way too convoluted.
Yeah, now Donald, tell me where you landed on this, because I feel like you're going to land slightly more positive than I did, or especially Neal.
I think I on my own personal list, Fire Emblem Fates is a medalist. It's not as high up on the list as it is on the site list, but we had several people that wanted it number one. So I think this was about the best Neal was going to get at this point. Birthright does have some issues of balance, but I think they expect you to grind above that, and it could use a little bit more variety in the options aside from route all day long.
Yeah.
Conquest is probably is more the classic game. I did find it annoying that I had to go to the DLC because I was playing it on normal and I was testing Phoenix mode with it, but it didn't really matter.
Yeah.
Because the normal is very easy, even for as far as a classic Fire Emblem game would go. And Revelations, it's a good coda. If you develop any sort of sympathy for any of the characters in this game, Revelations is a good coda. It's just the way I was playing it, I hit a wall about 2/3 of the way through the game, and had to, because I wanted everybody married, so I had to stop right at the point when I get 10 characters and just grind everybody up. But in the end, I didn't regret the 170 odd hours that I put into the 3 games combined.
Yeah.
And that includes having to restart Revelations at one point.
Wow.
But and I'm not even the biggest Fire Emblem fan in my own apartment. My roommate, I think, will clear 1,000 hours before the Switch comes out.
Jeez, that's too much Fire Emblem. That's like more than if you play through the entire series naturally, all 13, 14 games, like one playthrough, that's still less time than your roommate spent on one Fire Emblem
on
game.
Fates. Yeah, so he got the limited edition, so he's got the Fire Emblem Fates. It'll be 1,000 hours by the end of March.
Okay. So in other words, if you want to hear the positive talk on Fire Emblem Fates, you should read our write-up on NintendoWorldReport.com.
Yep.
Okay. Our number one game of the year, which in both reviews scored an 8.5 and an 8 respectively, is, of course, Pocket Monsters Sun and Pocket Monsters Moon for the
2 games. That's a rip.
There we go.
Hey, the only people who actually believe that Pokemon Sun and Moon are 2 separate games are NPD.
Yeah. Actually, that's interesting. Our first 2 slots on Game of the Year are 5 different games. Yeah, Pokemon Sun and Moon. I was looking at like the 3 elements I need to make a good video game, and I think the 3 elements you need are content, game quality, and freshness. I think those are the ingredients of an excellent video game. A lot of content, good quality like gameplay, and a lot of freshness. And for the most part, I think Pokemon Sun and Moon lands on all 3 of those. Since it's a Pokemon game, it has a lot of content, it has a big story, it has a big island, it has Pokemon gameplay, which is among the best gameplay that Nintendo has in its arsenal. And more than that, I just want to say Pokemon Sun and Moon is the freshest feeling Pokemon game in well over a decade, and that is something worth celebrating, because when a Pokemon game feels fresh, the rest of the game is so damn good that it makes you remember that the game is so damn good and not just more of the same.
We'll totally have some kind of bickering thing either here or on our Patreon exclusive podcast that you can get by supporting us on Patreon at www.patreon.com/NWR. For just $1 a month, you can listen to our exclusive monthly podcast. And that this month we'll have a couple people on talking about our Game of the Year lists, which none of the people here except for me, because we'll be doing that show in January here.
Yeah.
But anyway, I totally on the Patreon exclusive podcast we'll probably be bickering over some kind of rankings for Pokemon generations. I've been thinking about that on the back of my mind while playing through Pokemon Moon, and also in the couple weeks since after I finished it. I'm leaning more and more that like Pokemon Moon is my favorite Pokemon game. I just think it does so many awesome new things, and it like I like the new Pokemon a lot. I like the starters. I like the world. I like the wonderful quality of life, like tweaks and additions. Like the fact that HMs are a thing of the past is incredible.
Yeah.
And I just I keep thinking about how I want to replay that game, and I'm dangerously close to going out and buying a copy of Sun to complement my copy of Moon. But I kind of I want to try to hold out for whatever that potential third game is, whether it's on the Switch or the 3DS or who knows. I think I'll probably wait for that, but there is an urge of just wanting to replay this game that I just finished, and I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah. If you listen or watch this show, we've talked about Pokemon Sun and Moon plenty. We have an episode from a couple weeks ago that we literally talk about the games at length for 50 some odd minutes, and we talked about it since then. The last thing I'll say about Pokemon Sun and Moon, because the episode's getting long, it's 12:41 my time, 1:41 in the morning, Donald's time. You look at Pokemon's 20th anniversary, and you think about all the ways they celebrated it. Okay, they released Red and Blue. They go back to the past, and that's how you celebrate it. Oh, you release all the movies and the soundtracks. That's how you celebrate it. Oh, you got this Wii U game. That's how you celebrate it. Oh, you finally got the Pokemon mobile game. That's how you celebrate it. All this stuff that sort of plays off what you know about Pokemon. But I think secretly the best way to celebrate Pokemon's anniversary is to make a new Pokemon game that is a complete rethought on what it means to be a Pokemon game. Because what Pokemon Sun and Moon did that not any of the other dozen things the Pokemon Company did for Pokemon fans this year is that because it feels so fresh, it gives you the feelings you have when you played Pokemon for the first time.
Yeah.
And there is nothing more valuable than that to feel on Pokemon's 20th anniversary.
And I mentioned this in the write-up that's on the site because I had the honor of writing that one. There were 13 different staff nominations that we got with top 5 lists. And I don't know if Pokemon Sun and Moon was number 1 on any of them, but it was
you're also your math's not right, because there were a lot more. We also had patron nominations.
Yeah, I was just counting the staff ones because I had direct access to those when I wrote the article.
And even those, you didn't have all the staff ones. Just saying.
Yeah.
But some people did the right thing and just sent them right to me as opposed to just applying all.
Of the 13 that I saw, 11 people nominated Pokemon Sun and Moon for Game of the Year. So, and I think the fact that Sun and Moon, it did some of those things that we've been saying should be in Pokemon games for years now, like getting rid of the HMs, and something that am I clear to say what happens in the end game?
No.
No, because only because it's still only a couple months off.
We're a month out from the game.
However, here's what I will say to sort of do justice to what you want to say. Is what they do with the final battle in the game is a callback to something that they almost did in the first game, but they didn't do, and the only people who know about it are the people who know about Pokemon glitches in the original game.
Yeah.
It harkens back to a battle that and this will be spoilers this will be very mild spoilers to anyone, but if you love Pokemon, you've already played Sun and Moon anyways. So it's
and there's a lot of people that love Pokemon apparently.
Yeah, so It's
Well,
a battle.
that doesn't mean they finished it yet.
It's a battle that they almost put in to the original game, but they went another way instead. And the battle that they almost put in the original game, they actually finally put as the final boss in this game. It's one of the best moments. If we have top 5 moments in the Pokemon series, you have the fight of Red versus the fight against Red and Gold and Silver. But I think top 5 easily is the final boss fight in this game.
And I wasn't even thinking of that because I was thinking about what happens after that. If you go back, it's something that is from one of Neal's favorite games that I think that has been an answer to a question that I have had for a very long time with Pokemon games.
Well, that is something.
Let's talk about this after the show because I'm curious what you're getting at here.
But anyways, Pokemon Sun and Moon, congratulations.
You're our Game of the Year.
Nintendo World Report's Game of the Year. And it's the first year in a very long time when we actually have a ranked list with an actual Game of the Year.
Yeah, the last time we had a Game of the Year was 2010.
Yeah.
And even then it was platform specific.
Yeah, it was Dragon Quest 9 and
Galaxy 2.
Galaxy 2, yeah.
Okay.
Just real quick as we finish this out, here are the other 9 games that were up for nomination. Paper Mario Color Splash, Pokemon Go, Star Fox Zero, Pocket Tournament, Tokyo Mirage Destiny Sharp FE, Mario & Luigi Paper Jam, Dragon Quest 7, Mario Maker for 3DS, Kirby Robo-Bo, and Super Mario Run.
Excellent. Congratulations to all those games for almost becoming our Game of the Year.
And all those games are good.
Most of them, you know. Okay, just quick recap. Top 3 news stories of the year. Super Mario Run reveal number 3. Pokemon Go Fever number 2. Switch reveal number 1. Top 3 retro releases of the year. Re-releases of the year. Twilight Princess HD Wii U number 3. Number 2 is The Legend of Zelda. Oh, number 2 NES Classic. Number 1 Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow on the 3DS Virtual Console. Top 3 anticipated 2017 games. Number 3, the Poochie Amiibo. Number 2, Legend of Zelda: The Breath of the Wild. Number 1, Super Mario Bros. For Switch. And our top 5 games of the year, Pocket Card Jockey at number 5. Metroid Prime Federation Force at number 4. Picross 3D Round 2 at number 3. Fire Emblem Fates at number 2. And Pokemon Sun and Moon at number 1. That is Nintendo World Report's Game of the Year list. Thank you so much. Patreon.com/NWR to get even more podcasts, lots of exclusive content, and plenty of more bonuses. Patreon gets better by the day. Go support the site. If you love us, I know I love us. I hope you love us. I love you whether you support the site or not. But also, please consider supporting Patreon at Patreon. Well, our Patreon, not Patreon, the website, but us Patreon.
It's an alright website.
And
they've been good to us.
I wonder if Patreon has their own Patreon. They probably do.
That'd be weird. It's some kind of Inception bullshit. But anyway, thanks. Thanks, everybody. Have a good year.
Yeah, Enron 10, Donald Mick, Kulafia. Merry New Year.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.